Hello and welcome to Math Matters. I'm Ms. Granados and today we are going to learn about combining and subdividing shapes. You will need some materials before we begin. Some paper, something to write with, a ruler or straight edge, and a pair of scissors. Go ahead and gather your supplies. Before we start with today's content, let's review the names of some of the polygons that we might be seeing today. Say the name of the polygon as they appear. Ready? This is a triangle because it's a polygon with exactly 3 sides and 3 angles. This shape is a parallelogram because it is a quadrilateral where both sets of opposite sides are parallel. This is a rectangle because it's a parallelogram with 4 right angles and 2 sets of congruent sides. And this figure is a square because it's a parallelogram with 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides. This is a rhombus because it is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. And this last shape is a trapezoid because it is a quadrilateral with exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. We can take any of these polygons and either combine them to create larger polygons or subdivide them to create smaller polygons. Let's first look at combining polygons. We can combine or put together 2 or more polygons to form a new polygon. We can take 2 right isosceles triangles and create a square. We know it's a square because the sides are all marked with hash marks. That means the sides are congruent. Also, all the corners are right angles. Or we could take 2 right triangles and create an isosceles triangle. Or we could combine a triangle and a trapezoid to create a larger triangle. Now you try it. What can you create by combining a rectangle and a right triangle? Try combining these 2 shapes into one polygon on your paper. One way we could combine the rectangle and the right triangle is to create a trapezoid. We can translate the triangle to the side of the rectangle so that the new polygon has exactly one pair of parallel sides. These arrows on the top and bottom of the trapezoid signify that those line segments are parallel to each other. What else could you make by combining the rectangle and the right triangle? You could create a hexagon by rotating the triangle and combining it with the rectangle. We know it's a hexagon because the new shape now has exactly 6 sides. Use 2 or 3 of these shapes to create a new polygon. Draw it on your paper. One way that you could combine 3 of these figures is to create this hexagon that kind of looks like a spaceship. You'd combine the triangle, the rectangle, and the trapezoid. And I know that the new shape is a hexagon because I can count the total number of sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you could create a pentagon that looks like a house. This is a pentagon because it has 5 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A wonderful tool to help you combine polygons into a larger polygon are tangrams. And guess what? You're going to create your own set of tangrams. First, you need to make a square out of a regular rectangular piece of paper. You're going to take one of the corners, as in figure A, and fold it to the other edge, like figure B. There should be a rectangular piece left that you can then cut off, as in figure C. You should be left with a large square piece of paper. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to go ahead and do that now. Once you have the square piece of paper, fold it in half diagonally twice to create triangles 1 and 2. Then fold the bottom right-hand corner to the diagonal to create triangle 7. Create the remaining polygons carefully. I'll give you about a minute to do this. Okay, great. Now that you have those tangram pieces, you can start combining these polygons. You can use those tangram pieces to create any of these figures or other figures. You may want to take a picture of this, so I will enlarge it for you. These figures can be created using the 7-piece tangram you just created. I'll give you about 1 minute to try and do any of these, and then we're going to move on. But you can always try to create figures like these on your own after the lesson. Now let's move into subdividing. We actually just subdivided the large square into 7 different polygons when you made your tangrams. To subdivide is to take a shape and break it into smaller shapes. For example, this 7-sided figure can be subdivided into 3 smaller polygons: a trapezoid, parallelogram, and triangle. So now you get to try subdividing again. Take a piece of paper and fold it in half. What new shapes did you just make? Did you create rectangles like these? Or like these? Or did you create triangles? Or maybe a different shape? Well, these are all ways to subdivide the rectangular piece of paper. We can even divide the rectangle into more than 2 shapes. So now take a new piece of paper and create 3 or more shapes out of that one rectangular piece of paper. What new shapes did you make this time? Did you create 3 rectangles like these? Or did you create a rectangle and 2 triangles like this? Or maybe you created something new, like a right triangle, a parallelogram, and a rectangle. All of these are ways to subdivide a rectangle or a rectangular piece of paper. Now, what might this look like on a test? Here's an example. If the figure above is cut along the dashed line segments, what shapes will result after both cuts are made? Use the word bank to the left of the picture to best describe the 3 shapes that will result after cutting on the dotted line segments. All right, the 3 shapes that are created are a square, a triangle, and a rhombus. If you selected parallelogram instead of rhombus, you're correct that it is a parallelogram, but we need to be as specific as possible with naming shapes. So remember that a rhombus is a special kind of parallelogram in that all 4 sides are congruent. In this figure, each side measures 3 units, so we know it's a rhombus. If the figure above is cut along the dashed line segments, what shapes will result after both cuts are made? Again, use the word bank to describe the 3 shapes that will result after the 2 cuts. Okay, the 3 shapes are a parallelogram, a triangle, and a trapezoid. If you'd like to practice more subdividing and combining shapes, here are some resources that you might want to use. Pattern blocks, tangrams, which is like what you just made, geoboards, paper cutting or folding, which again you've done, or grid paper. There are also games online that will help you combine or subdivide shapes. One game is called 4-Piece Tangram Puzzle. You can play this game, with your parents' permission of course, by going to mathplayground.com and clicking on Logic Games. Then you scroll down to Tangrams. Once you're there, you'll see 4 polygons that you will need to combine to create the larger polygon. You can use any combination of transformations to help you: rotation, reflection, or translation. This is what that puzzle would look like at the end after rotating, reflecting, and translating the 4 figures into the larger polygon. It's a fun game to play online, so make sure to ask your parents if you can play tangrams on mathplayground.com. So, just as a reminder of what we talked about today, polygons can be combined to create larger polygons, or larger polygons can be subdivided to break into smaller polygons. In today's episode of Math Matters, we learned about how to combine and subdivide polygons. I'm Miss Granados, and I hope you have a great day. Keep on counting.